Hello everybody, this is Maniac4Toys, and we're back with more wooden trains. Now, for this one, I'm not going to talk about the Thomas wooden railway system too much. I covered a lot of it in my previous video. There are a couple of things that I did miss when talking about them in that video or having them to show. Some of them I mentioned in the video, like James, Annie, and Clarabelle, that I just know that are out there, probably in some of the box elsewhere. And I think there might be a handful of other ones that I was missing. So if you want to look back at that video, there is a pinned comment that I updated as far as which ones that I couldn't find in the one box full of Thomas stuff and other wooden railways like this one. But also what I would like to get in the future if I want to expand the town a little bit more. For this setup, we're mostly going to look at BRIO, but we're also going to have several other wooden railway brands. These are ones that I've been able to use over time in compatibility to Thomas, but weren't made under the same umbrella. It's kind of like how I grew up with Lego and Mega Bloks and K'NEX at the same time. They were all building brands that could correspond with each other to a degree, and I, as a kid, didn't really mind it too much. Nowadays, as an adult, I would like to separate those things out more, but that'll be for another video. For this one, here is basically what I have for the BRIO setup. There's probably a couple things here and there missing, but I don't recall there being a lot of track to it. There's enough here that I'm able to make a full circuit and just have a couple extra pieces in the center. I don't know if all of these trains actually belong under BRIO. They do have a similar style of wheels though, so I'm just going to include them here for now. There's no fancy name for this one, but I am getting a little bit of a zoo vibe, especially considering the tree, the orange lion, and the green giraffe? Yeah, anyways. So there are a couple pieces here and there that are missing from there, and I did forget to mention on the Thomas Wooden Railway video that I did have a railroad crossing. It's currently missing the two plastic pieces on either side that would say stop on it, but that is something I want to acknowledge as far as other destinations, as they're called, or just track accessories. For this setup, I actually don't know what this bridge belongs to in the background. There are missing pieces on it. There's supposed to be a string that allows you to pull this up and, lift the bridge up and down. But I don't actually know what brand it is. And it is compatible with all the other stuff, BRIO and Thomas Wooden Railway, but I don't know much about it beyond that. And it's so large, I can see why I didn't really get much into the extensions and like overheads and things like that when it came to the wooden railway system. This thing is almost as long as this oval, and I actually tried building it into this track, but it wasn't enough space for my table currently. I probably could have made another space, but it's a little difficult right now with moving things around. So anyways, as we get on to this, I do want to mention that this is actually a battery-operated train this time around. Most of the other ones we saw in the Thomas video were not battery-operated. The only problem with this one is when I unscrewed it on the bottom, it does need a couple of disc batteries, which I don't have a lot of available right now. It has just enough power in it in order to show the light, or rather the sound for it, but it doesn't have enough that when I switch this on and off, it can't actually move any of the wheels, so that it'll move into, all the way around the track. So, if we'll take a close listen here, I can get a little bit of the sound as best as I can out of this engine. And surprisingly, it holds well as far as the sound goes. I don't know how much battery life is in there that it doesn't have the other switch operating, but it's still enough that I have played it once or twice before when testing this before the video, and it doesn't sound like it's breaking up too much. Most of the other components here are just track accessories, just kind of like little trains or little cars I could add along that train. Again, it's very peculiar. I don't know if BRIO changed at one point or if this just might be two train brands that I combined it together, but the magnets on them seem to be a bit different over time. You have these larger, rounder magnets on some of the cars, and even this one engine over here, and then you have a handful that are just metallic and round, not with any like rubber piece on the end of it like the other ones. So I don't know exactly why that is the case. I haven't really researched much into the toy history of BRIO, and I don't think there's, like I said, there might be a couple things missing from here as far as pieces go. I do have this ramp. I can't really attach that onto anything because I don't have the right adapter or anything like that. But still, a nice little setup for here. Now we're actually going to do something different. We're actually going to add in a couple other things that are wooden railway related, but aren't, again, from Thomas or anything specific to that. It's like more compatible stuff. So if I take this train off the track, I'm going to add this one on here. This is actually one of 3 that I've collected over time, because my dad, he's really into Lionel. He has, like, I don't remember what scale of tracks they are, but they are from Lionel brand of tracks that he's set up a few times when we've moved. You know, there would be some section of the basement that would have that. This doesn't have it right now. Really not really a space for it. But it is something that he was passionate about when it comes to trains and kind of translated onto me and my brother. So, in that process, he picked up a couple of Lionel books that have train components with them. So, we have things like this book, which is the Daylight Limited from the Great Railway series. There's the Torpedo Run. And then there's the President Express. Even more fun than reading about each of these trains in these books with their own little stories to them is listening to them. When I pulled these out, I had a big wave of nostalgia for all of the little, things all the sound effects and everything that would go along with these tapes, and listening to them in long car rides. We'd have like our own tape recorder, tape cassette, whatever players in order to listen to these and read along with the books. So each of these have their own narration to them and were fun to occupy our time, and it really got us more into the world of trains. And with those, you have these trains. So this one being the Daylight. I don't remember what the other part of the name was, but only on here it just says Daylight. And each of these is very cool. It has a battery that you can put into there, usually a AA battery, and you can ride these along standard tracks like BRIO or Thomas Wooden Railway. And when you switch it on, you can also have forward and backward motion, and a light will turn on with either direction. There's one for the President Washington, it says on there. I thought it was President Express, as it says on the book. And like most of the other stuff that I've shown with the wooden railway stuff, they've had some wear and tear over time. You would actually unscrew it over here for inserting the battery. Like the whole shell of it pops off. Most of the weight is really just in the shelf of it. And then here's the torpedo. I don't know if any of these are actually based on real world trains, but they do look nice. And if I could translate that into Lego form, that would be so much cooler. So we'll take one of these, add them onto the track, and see how it goes when it comes to pulling stuff around. Well, that's awkward. Because I checked with the batteries, they are at least half capacity, and... Alright. This is raw video, everybody. No edits whatsoever. Third time's the charm, maybe? Nope, not quite. Yeah, there might be a little bit more work as far as getting these to run, but they should be able to run at a decent pace if they were to go around the track. Kind of the same speed, roughly, as the BRIO train here, but funny thing about these, my brother actually used these trains particularly to testing batteries when he was in, I guess it was middle school then, for a science fair project. Like testing like 3 different brands of batteries that are all AA's and seeing how long they would last if they were just set up along a track. So each of these had their own track or had intermingling tracks, so they would just run at their own pace. They'd go over hills, they'd go through bridges and things like that, and we would see which ones last the longest. And generally, the ShopRite brand, I think, was the one that lasted the least longest, like had the least amount of energy they could put out, and the ones like Energizer and Duracell were much stronger. I mean, that kind of goes with the brand themselves, You wouldn't expect a battery that you pick up at the grocery store to last as long as a major battery like Duracell and Energizer. But still, they were very cool to have these things. And even though they're not running right now for the video, I still enjoy finding them once again. Now, if you give me a moment, I will pull out some of the catalogs and a couple other things when it comes to train toys that I'd like to share for this video. Before I continue this video, I would like to acknowledge another Lionel book-related thing that I've had over time. This is the Lionel Rail Tales, volumes 2 and 3, which, again, have a more kid-friendly book to them. This is included with one of those books. These are small, easy-to-read kids' books that, again, are published by Lionel. I don't remember, but I think they had trains with them too, but I can't find them at the moment. And they also had this playmat to go with it. Sort of a playmat. Has just a large surface with some little bit of track along each end of it, and a nicely drawn or painted picture along each side. This one actually is upside down, so you can see it like that. But again, not a lot of room for actually doing stuff with the train itself on there. And even if you connect them to each other, they don't really have like a connection point, but still, it's something to do to go along with these stories. As some of the illustrations in here are based on the ones in the books. So, just want to move those out of the way, and then we'll get on to the other Thomas stuff. So now we'll move on to the Thomas Minis, which is something I got into more recently, about 2 years ago, and while I didn't get a lot of the figures, I still tried to get the ones that I was familiar with, the different characters. I thought it was pretty charming that each of them had their own variants, but it's not something that I've really tried a long time to get a whole bunch of the ones I wanted. After a couple of blind packs, I wasn't really sure if this was a series I wanted to continue, especially when they didn't really have a track system at the time. I mean, nowadays they have more playset stuff, and I was preferring something that was going to be just a single track, you know, make some basic loops and things like that. That would be like the railway system I'm used to with wooden ones. So, we'll open these up. I do have by default the Golden Thomas, and there is also the default track that's along the back of it, which you can use to run the trains around and link them together. So might as well get to the Golden Thomas first. Most of these I've barely touched, and I actually do have the box. I just happened to come across in one of the stores I went to an empty box of the Thomas Minis. So like that little, cardboard box, I've collected a couple from collectible minifigures for Lego, so I might as well do one or two from Thomas Minis. This one I was definitely happy to have. This is Diesel 10, and one thing I did learn over time is that each of these blind packs actually do have a number on the back of them, and they correspond to the specific character that is in them. So I think it was Thomas Mini Wiki or something like that that had a record of all of them, and there are certain variants of them as far as characters go. This one is Sydney, and it looks like a Christmas holiday sort of variant. A lot of snow on top of him. Kind of cool there. Not saying that these aren't bad. This is just something that I'm not sure if I would want to extend into another branch of collectibles without, solving the first one. So this one, I couldn't read it first. It says Henry. Got a little bit of an arty design on there, both sides. These are relatively the same on both sides for each of them. I think this one, oh, that's Diesel. Okay. I almost got it confused with, it's either Splatter or Dodge. One of them has a similar shape. Can't remember what this one is supposed to be, though. It has like a lightning. I don't think it was a superhero series, because I didn't get any of those when they started coming out. Dinosaurs, we got this one is Gator. I'm not familiar with this guy, but alright. Looking alright. And we do have a couple Thomas variants other than just the gold one. We have here Gordon with kind of a race car pattern, it looks like. I'm sure plenty of you know better than I do. Here we just have the standard version of James. One of the few. Like, I actually have been having a hard time with finding many of the standard ones compared to the specialty ones. And there's a lot of mini-series. It's like Hot Wheels. They have a lot of different series of recolors of the same models. So this one is Thomas, and this one has a more Halloween, spooky, actually very creepy on the front of it, skeleton design to him. And then next to that, we also have just the regular version of Thomas. Looking pretty good there. And I actually don't mind with this series that each of them have a very basic shape as far as the vehicles or even the wheels for each of the cars. I think it fits them very well. It's mini, it's expected, unlike a certain Thomas would, where it's like the same size roughly, but then they're, still cutting off details here and there. This one, it's Spencer. Okay, I'm not familiar with that one either. Very transparent and very lightning effective, you know. Very cool there. Another dinosaur one we have here for James. So, covering a lot more, actually covering around the face. I thought that was pretty interesting compared to the one we saw for Gator, where it only covered most of the back. And has a lot more masking on it. And then we have another racing related one, it looks like, for Percy. And he looks pretty good. I like the way the stripes come around on the sides and things. A little checkerboard pattern on top. And then last but not least, for the minis, we have Salty with a baseball variant. So, looking pretty good on the front, just like Salty. And then we got all the, you know, looks like a giant baseball kind of wrapping around it. And we have like the mitt, and the ball, and the bat. This is exciting, isn't it? This is the kind of premium content you come here for. But anyways, they're still fun to collect, but I can't really see myself going much further with these, especially with the blind packs. You know, it might be... I don't know if some of the regular ones are still in circulation, or if they just have a lot more of the, you know, variants. You know, I know that for a while they've had DC superheroes as part of this series. They even have another one of these cases for DC superheroes, a special vehicle to go with it as well. But it's still a nice little thing to get into, and I can see the charm that goes along with playing with these. So maybe next time in another video, because I've already taken a lot of time as it is, I'll go into some of these catalogs, and we'll maybe try out those, I keep forgetting the name of them, the Tomy series of Thomas things. So thank you for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time with more toy videos.